plan this morning, according to your schedule, we'll be going from till about noonish is where we're going to be landing. I have two parts this morning. One is going to be primarily looking at a question of church membership, and so it's related to that. And then the second section will be dealing with church leadership and some of those issues. Really, I'm going to just dump a whole bunch of information on you. I want you to take some notes, come up with questions for discussion. This is not a sermon. It's not even a lecture, really. It's more in the category of a presentation and discussion. So I'm actually fine if there's something I'm talking about and it totally doesn't make sense, and you need me to clarify something, just raise your hand or interrupt me. It won't throw me off. Think of it more as a teaching opportunity here. But we will at the end have opportunity for direct discussion on some of the issues that we bring up. And as Paul mentioned, I'm not assuming you don't know anything. Some of you may come in with not a whole lot of background in the doctrine of the church. Some of you may have a lot of background in it, and some of us, it's more of a refresher. But it will give us an opportunity to be discussing some of these issues kind of from a common perspective. Let me get going here. Plug in. I also have, and I heard that we're having internet problems and connectivity problems, but I do have a website, retrochristianity.com, if you want to write that down. And I created, and if you're able to access it now, all of the PowerPoint slides that I have here are available there. Right at the very top, you'll be able to find that right away. And then also links to various articles. A lot of the material that I'm covering this morning is dealt with in more depth in a book called Retro Christianity, and that's available as well. You'll be able to find that pretty easily. All right, looks like we're more or less up and running. All right, if someone has a connection, you can try to scan that QR code. That'll bring you there right away. Otherwise, you can do it the old-fashioned way. And this is like regular toothbrush, electric toothbrush. The quick and easy way. So feel free to do that, and I'll put this on the screen a couple of times, and at the very end as well. So if some of you like to be able to download the slides themselves and follow along, you can do that. All right, so let's just get started. The title of the series here is, I'm calling it Church Classic in Search of Authentic Church, and we're looking at the doctrine of the church in biblical and historical perspective. One thing that may be a little unique that we're not used to is I'm not only going to go through biblical passages that relate to these things and draw the theology out of that, but we're also going to take a look at the very earliest church, the 1st to 2nd century, and how the on-the-ground reality really played out, and see that those two things are very consistent. So it fills in some of the gaps and helps us understand the context of the New Testament church. And then we can ask the question, well, what do we do with that? How do we deal with that in the church today? Okay, so I'll bring the QR code up, but else again later, but retrochristianity.com will take you to the same place. And as soon as you're there, you'll see it has a list of some items that are dedicated just to this particular conference. So first of all, I want to introduce a model of the local church, what it is, what it's supposed to be doing. We're not going to look at all of these things. The book deals with that, and a lot of those articles that I have on my website will address some of these things in much more detail. We're primarily going to look at the issue of church order. But when I think about a local church, what it is and what it does, I think of the marks of the church, what makes a church a church. Because there are a lot of Christian things out there that are perfectly fine, like this is a conference center. It's not a church. There are Bible schools. It's not a church. There are mission organizations. They're not a church. What is a local church? What makes a church a church? And traditionally and biblically, we've thought about it this way, that it is marked by orthodoxy, the true gospel, the correct theology, the big picture issues. Even though we disagree on a lot of issues, we all agree on the main fundamental essentials of the Orthodox faith. And then second, what we'll be looking at more today, order, the second O, and that is how our churches are constituted, the people, the membership, and the leadership primarily. Those two aspects of the order. And then the ordinances, baptism and the Lord's Supper, and how those are related. All of these things are actually related to each other. If one is wrong, the others are going to be messed up. So they're all interconnected, but we'll look at them individually. And then evangelism and edification and exaltation are the things that the church, being constituted, is supposed to be about. So going out into the world, preaching the gospel, inviting people in, initiating them into this faith, and then building them up, edification, unto the glory of God. And all of these two pillars make a church a church. If any of these are missing, or severely damaged, or distorted, it basically endangers the identity of the church itself and its mission, what it's about. So the Word of God purely preached, ordained leaders and discipline. That is the order of the church, membership, proper membership and leadership. The sacraments or ordinances rightly administered. Different people call those things different things, but we're using ordinances here. Then on the other side, the conversion and mission work. The disciples trained for ministry, and then public worship properly performed. So none of these stand alone. They are all dependent on each other, and all together have to be functioning. So just this model alone, people have used this to think through the health of their church. Right? It's almost as if you can kind of walk around these pillars and examine, how is our teaching? Are we teaching it? Just because your doctrinal statement says it doesn't mean your people believe it. It has to be taught. It has to be passed on. Order. How are we organized? Are our leaders well trained? Are they qualified? Do we have enough of them? Do we have too many of them? That happens too. Ordinances. Are we doing baptism properly in the right way? Does it mean anything to people, or is it just something we do? So we can actually walk through our ministry or think through them and inspect these periodically and say, oh man, we're really dropping the ball on evangelism, or our worship is pretty dull. Nobody's really participating, or we don't have the right leaders, right? So you can do a periodic check to make sure that your church is in a healthy place. So what we're going to focus on is order, but all